and players smiling.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in. 51 for Jason Tatum.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn, and myself, Kwani, Lunis. We're here to dish on everything related to the Celtics. But before we get into this, we just want to make sure you know that as a result of listening to our podcast, we hope that you're showing love to our good friends at Prize Pick. They're America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. You can download the app today and get a $50 bonus after your first $5 lineup. And a friendly reminder, like we said, you're listening to the Big Three NBA podcast, which is actually a part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you can find our podcast, past and present, as well as a lot of other great Celtics content on a regular basis. All right, so off the top, Jaylen Brown. Let's start with him. The NBA.com, Sean Powell ranked Jaylen as the 8th best player in the East as we head into the 2025-2026 season. That's behind Giannis, who was #1, Jalen Brunson at 2, Donovan Mitchell at 3, and there's a few other people listed, obviously, before you get to Jaylen at #8. But what do you two think about this?
When I saw the list, I was like, interesting.
Paulo Banchero before him and Cade Cunningham.
Well, here's the thing. This is what I would say. Jaylen at 8, I would say the majority of the guys I do think should be ahead of Jaylen. I do. But I think Jaylen, to me, is in that 5A, 5B. The couple of guys that I have real reservations about why they are ahead of Jaylen. First, right off the top. And again, we're talking about guys going into the 2025-2026 season, okay? This isn't lifetime accomplishments, ability to dominate when they're at the top of the game. We're talking about where those guys are literally in this moment going into the season. So Joel Embiid was 2 spots ahead of Jaylen. Don't know that should not happen. You cannot tell me that Jaylen Brown's impact going into the season should be ranked below Joel Embiid, who is literally, I mean, when you look up question mark in the dictionary, there should be a big old mug shot of Joel Embiid, because that's literally who he is right now. No one has any idea what he's going to be able to do this year. The other guy that's ahead of him and again, this is a tough one for me, because as Gary knows, my Detroit Pistons love is real. I love me some Detroit Pistons. And Cade Cunningham is a couple spots ahead of him. While I think Cade, by the time he's done playing, if he can stay healthy and all that stuff, will be as good, maybe better than Jaylen. The fact that he's ranked ahead of him and really hasn't put together the body of work that Jaylen has, and frankly, the role that Jaylen is going to have going into the season, and again, keep the focus on this upcoming season. I can't imagine that Jaylen is not going to be tasked with an even greater role and impact for his team relative to Cade Cunningham, who I think is, again, just a great player. So to me, Jaylen should probably be 5th or 6th best player coming into the season when you talk about the top players in the East. But 8th, nah, too low.
Well, I tend to think, I don't know, like, is this list, the top players heading into the 25-26? Right. Okay, obviously Giannis #1, Jalen Brunson 2nd, Donovan Mitchell 3rd. I think Jaylen should be in that 4th, 5th range. I like Paolo. He's incredible player. But like Sherrod said, like the resume don't show it yet. Like he's got to stay healthy, So we're all basing this on if healthy. Cade Cunningham, right. The same thing. Cade's comes back from some injury-plagued seasons and had a strong season, led the Pistons to the playoffs for the first time in a while. So much respect. But Jaylen, NBA Finals MVP, and entering the prime of his career, probably should be ahead of Cade. And Embiid, I'm gonna have empathy with Sean here because it's hard to place him. Like, where do you place Joel Embiid? If he's healthy, he's right behind Giannis at #2. But he's not. But he can impact the game in so many different ways: rebounding, scoring, get to the free throw line, defense when he wants to play defense. And the Evan Mobley, defensive player of the year, all NBA. Once again, where was he in that playoff series against Indiana, right? Like, Jaylen's proven it on a big level. I can understand the frame of like entering this season, right? But I think Jaylen, so what are you going off? What the potential, like what they can do, but Jaylen's going to have more touches, more opportunities, more shots than he ever has. So I think you got to rank Jaylen up in that 4 or 5 range. I would put maybe Donovan Mitchell ahead of him, but when it starts getting to the Cade Cunningham and Paolo, Banchero, and then Embiid and Mobley, then I think he has a reason to feel a little slighted on this list. But then again, Karl Anthony Towns is 9th. I mean, would you put Karl Anthony Towns ahead of Evan Mobley? A lot of people would.
I wouldn't.
Joel Embiid, maybe. And then Trae Young is 10th. So, I mean, this is an interesting list. I think it's based on a lot about, with Banchero, if he's healthy, Cunningham, guys who are really literally about to break out and be potential MVP candidates. So I understand the list, right? That's for sure. I understand his decision making, but if I'm Jaylen, I think I'm putting him 4 or 5.
Well, the one thing that again for me was challenging with this is that we don't necessarily know what are the criteria for how they're ranked, other than the fact that these are the top players that Sean believes are the top players going into the season. And to me, I don't know how you can, have that conversation and not factor in where guys are right now health-wise going into the season. What are guys' track record health-wise going to see? That's why, to me, you have to. I just don't know how you can keep Joel anywhere near the top of a top 10. Like, to me, at best, he's like in that bottom 2, bottom 3 of a top 10 list because of the consistent lack of good health that he's had. And you're right, Banchero, certainly I think there's some health concerns, but it's not like he's a chronic guy that's always hurt, always banged up, always missing big games. And that's why, I tend to give him a little bit more grace in that regard, just because it really isn't part of the narrative surrounding him. And those other guys, same thing with Cade. Cade has had probably a couple more nicks and bumps than Paolo, but it's still, I don't think it's to the point where you feel that this is a guy that is injury prone or injury riddled the way we look at Joel Embiid. So that's why I think you're right, Gary. Anywhere in that 4 to 6 range, I think he's probably about 5. But 8th, hell no. Hell no. Especially now with no Tatum, that's like 20 some shots that somebody gonna get. And you all know how that typically goes. When you in the lunch line and the person in front of you don't get the last of the cupcakes or the food or whatever, you're going to get that. You're going to eat well. Jaylen is going to put up big numbers this year. That's why the idea that he's the 8th best player coming into the season, no, I just can't see that.
Yeah, well, we shall see. All right, so Gary, let's move on. You had a story you were reporting on the fact that the WNBA Sun potentially, we've been talking about a WNBA team in Boston I feel like a lot of people have been talking about it for years now, but former Celtics minority owner Steve Pagliuca, he wants to buy the team and plans on moving them to Boston. What impact would that have on the city? But what more can you tell us from the reporting that you've been doing so far on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
what happened was
this is very sticky. Basically, the tribe wants to sell. Okay, like for years it was uncertain whether the tribe wanted to sell the team, even though the Connecticut plays in one of the smaller arenas in the WNBA. They don't have a dedicated practice facility. A lot of the players, they cleaned house this year. DeWanna Bonner gone, Brianna Jones gone, Alyssa Thomas gone. Their coach gone. Like, basically they're a complete rebuild. And so there was uncertainty what the tribe wanted to do, but the tribe wants to sell. Okay. They want to get out of the WNBA business. $325 million is a lot of money, and the most ever for a professional women's sports team. So, and they want to see the team in Boston. Okay. Like, they don't want the team to move to Hartford. Why would you want why would you sell and have the team move 30 miles away or whatever? And like, to me, they want the team to go to a bigger place, bigger arena. So the deal was agreed upon. Okay. However, the WNBA is like, wait a minute, they have to approve it. And they're not happy that Boston, one, didn't apply for a expansion team. And there's 9 other cities like Nashville, and Houston and other teams that were rejected for an expansion team that are saying, so wait a minute, Boston gets to jump the line and get a team and we don't. So there's all this complication here, even though it makes the most sense. $325 million, $100 million towards a practice facility. The people I've talked to, the Celtics would welcome it. Scheduling is not an issue because there's not a whole lot going on in the summer in terms of TD Garden. There's activities where you can make 25 dates for a WNBA team because it's like 40, I think it's gonna be 48 games next year. So, or in 2027. So it fits perfectly, but the WNBA is being stubborn about this, and they need to approve a deal. So no deal has been reached because WNBA needs to approve it. The Tribe wants to sell to Pagliuca. Like, that's the thing. That's the key component here. They're ready to move on from this. They're ready to make it happen, but they know that the WNBA is not going to sign off on it. So at this point, it's a stalemate. Now, will there be negotiations? Will there be conversations between the commissioner, the board of governors, and the Tribe and prospective owners? Now, there's a apparent new offer from the Bucks owner, Mark Lasry, who wants to move the team to Hartford. I don't know why he would move the team to Hartford instead of Milwaukee. I mean, the former Bucks owner. Like, so it's a lot of like stuff going on. But what I do know is the Tribe wants to sell, and they want to sell to a group in Boston. The governor, who I talked to, wants the team in Boston. Maura Healey is all on board with this. They don't want to wait till 2033. That was when the next wave of expansion. So there's a lot of like, things going on here. The WNBA is being heavily criticized because it's like, well, once again, the WNBA can't take 2 steps forward because they're rejecting this deal. And in all honesty, it should be a pretty much, sorry for the pun, but a slam dunk, right? So the WNBA is taking a lot of heat, but they're being stubborn about this. If you read the statement that they made, basically like, well, they ain't applied for relocation, so therefore they're in the bottom of the line. And I confirmed that with a WNBA official who was like, yeah, that's what they meant. Like, that's what they said, like Freddie's dead. Yeah, that's what I said. Freddie's dead. Yeah, that's an old one, but that's what I said. Like, they confirmed that's what they said. So we're at this point, it's kind of at a stalemate, and we'll see what happens. When the Tribe wants to sell, whether they'll just take the first offer. Will the WNBA force the Tribe to sell it to a Connecticut-based owner to keep it in Connecticut? What use of it is it to have the team in Connecticut, a team with no other professional sports teams, instead of Boston that wants the WNBA?
You're not doing the team a service by having them in the middle of a casino. Like the way TD Garden has sold out games here.
And I don't understand the Hartford thing as much as I think Hartford is a nice city. It's, like you're going to play in the same XL Center, which is not has the amenities as TD Garden, which has just been refurbished. Mm-hmm. So like, does a WNBA really want a team in Hartford? And what would that do? And then would you want a team in Hartford and in a few years a team in Boston? Where, do you want 2 teams 90 minutes away from each other? So it's a confusing aspect. It's a lot going on. The Tribe wants to sell, but no one can talk about it because on the record, obviously, because nothing is they don't want to piss off the WNBA. The governors and the WNBA need to collaborate on it. And I said it's a lot going on with the WNBA being stubborn. And the WNBA is, let's be honest, they added 2 expansion cities in Cleveland and Detroit that have already had WNBA teams that moved.
Right.
So you're gonna say, well, you should have been with. What makes, and I'm not ripping Cleveland and Detroit, but what makes them a better WNBA city now? Like, I don't the Cleveland Rockers were a cool team. They moved, they folded. The Detroit Shock won championships and then moved to Tulsa.
Right.
Like, yeah, they moved to Tulsa. Like, who moves from Detroit to Tulsa? then the Tulsa team moved to Dallas.
Other than maybe Joe Sway.
Yeah.
Boston is Boston, Oklahoma City.
So to me, it's just it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And the people I've talked to are like, well, this is what they do. So can the WNBA be convinced that Boston is the best place, that Boston needs to just kind of skip this line? If not, like, did they promise that Nashville or Houston, another team that lost, like the Comets were a 4-time NBA champion and that team folded? Like we're going to cities now that have failed the WNBA before. Right. And Boston has never had a team. They had the New England Blizzard from the ABL, if you look that up, in the late 90s, coached by the great Casey Jones, and I think they played in Hartford. So Boston has never had a WNBA team. They've had the 2 sellouts. There's a lot of enthusiasm here, a lot of people rooting for this to happen. But we'll see if the WNBA can get out of its own way and figure this thing out. And it could be, well, our owners want the expansion fee from Boston. So now you're clamoring over $250 million divided by 15. So now you're clamoring over 17, 18 million for each owner. Like, that's what we're doing here. Like, you're going to stop Boston because you want Boston to pay the expansion fee. So it's very fascinating. And the Tribe wants like 325 million. They ready. Yeah. Like, I was told they want to get out of the WNBA business. They want to run their casino, invest in their casino, invest in their hotel, maybe expand or whatever. It's still a tourist attraction. They still have concerts there. They still have other events there. They still have college basketball games there. They still have high school championship games there. They still have, like, all types of stuff goes on at the casino and the hotel and, in the arena. So it is one of those things that it's going to get sticky. And this is why it's 2 sides who have agreed to a deal, but the one authority, the WNBA, has said, no, not quite. And Boston got to wait. So we'll see how long they wait.
Well, here's the thing, Gary. I think the one thing that no one in this conversation is talking about, either on or off the record, is the money. There's a reason why they want out of the WNBA, because no one is going to those games out there. And they know that some of these other events that you mentioned, Gary, where you've got concerts and other events, those are going to fill the place. And so they're going to make more money if they can unload the WNBA and bring in some of those other one-off type events. So and I totally get that. That absolutely makes sense to them. The thing that I can't really understand why the WNBA doesn't understand this is that when you have your league in a place like Mohegan Sun, your league is an afterthought. Your league is something that people do in between slot machines.
People win tickets at a slot machine to go there.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, it makes sense for them, right now, the Tribe, to want to get out of that business. It makes sense for the WNBA to go somewhere where you have an ownership group. Not only is they're not willing to pay top dollar, they're willing to pay more than anyone has ever paid for a WNBA team. And they're willing to commit financially to building a practice facility so that they can have a state-of-the-art experience above and beyond what's happening on the court. You don't think free agents who are looking to play in the WNBA would not want to play in Boston? Please, of course they would. When you look at players who are asked about that, who have those conversations about Boston, and particularly when they've played games here, which, by the way, have all sold out, they talk about how cool it would be to be in a city like Boston. Mm-hmm. It makes so much sense for them to, and let's be honest, if you're talking about the bottom line money-wise, you're talking about $250 million divided up versus one team getting $325, and you having the ability to say that the Connecticut Sun or the Boston Sun, whatever they're going to call themselves if they move to Boston, they now become the standard that if you want to buy into the WNBA, you're going to have to come up with at least $325, $350 bills to do so. That's what the going rate. It makes absolutely no sense in the world why that they are just allowing themselves to get in their feelings because Pags made a power move because he can do that. The Tribe are trying to make power moves because they should be able to do that. And if you're the WNBA, you literally win if you allow this to go through. This is a win for everyone involved with the WNBA ecosystem. But if you force them to sell for less than they can get for that team, which, again, in the world of business, that is insane. unless you would be selling more to someone who has nefarious intentions, which is not the case. I mean, he's talking about not only moving the team to a bigger market, which will attract more fans, which will increase the overall fan base, but he's willing to pay more money than anyone else has done. And he's got another 9 figures that he wants to drop down for a practice facility. I don't understand what the hell the WNBA is tripping for. Get out with your damn feelings and get the deal done. I mean, this is like low-key triggering me today, man, because it's just dumb. It's just dumb.
Yeah, especially when you have union situations where your players are saying pay them more money, and Caitlin Clark is making $78,000 a year, right. And other players in the league are making $250,000, right? And if
when the team valuations increase, everyone is going to start making more money.
And so you're telling the players that here is the facilities that they want. Here is a practice facility. What they don't have in Connecticut now, and you're telling them, no, play in Hartford. I'm not saying I'm not saying that Hartford would be a bad place, but I'm just saying, why would
the
WNBA want to move to Hartford over Boston? It doesn't make sense. And then if they do, then you're going to want to put an expansion team in Boston, because I just think, let's be honest, like the WNBA is going to, I don't think there should be 30 WNBA teams. Like, I don't think
they're not ready for that yet.
I don't think there's that much talent out there yet. It will be, obviously, right? But it's like, so how many teams you talking about? Because now there's going to be 18 when all this. So Boston's going to be the 20. So you have 20 teams, and you're going to have a team in Hartford and a team in Boston. Like, to me, it's a very bizarre thing, and then the whole situation with Chisholm, the prospective new Celtic owner, telling the WNBA, "Hey, wait! Like, is this a power play that he's pulling with Paliuka? Like, that's a whole different topic, because I haven't heard much from Chisholm in terms of we want a WNBA team too in the interviews that he's done, but now suddenly that becomes a factor. So are they saying, okay, Bill, you've come to us officially, and basically you've kissed the ring, so we're going to please you. And Paliuka, nah, we're all set on him because he tried to jump the line. Is this a major power play? What does the WNBA want out of Paliuka to make this happen? Like, this is where it gets sticky. And this is why people criticize the league for not being a smart business people, because seems to make too much sense. And even the Connecticut people, Jen Rosati talked during the game yesterday, and she would not deny that the team was for sale, and just basically said maybe it's to a point where the tribe it's outgrown its worth. Like she did not say, oh no, we're staying in Connecticut forever. No, nothing has been denied about this story. So what is the WNBA trying to do here? We'll find out, obviously.
They need to, again, this is about profit, not personal. It's not personal at all. There's an opportunity to help your league. There's an opportunity to help one of your franchises. There's an opportunity to amplify your audience by putting them in a bigger market than they're currently in, which last I checked is kind of what you want to do. You kind of want to become a bigger deal. So why are you letting your feelings get in the way of what just makes good businesses? And it's not like you're getting a lowball offer. He's literally willing to pay more than any other WNBA franchise has gone for. So you're getting top dollar. You're getting to a major market. You have players who would be absolutely crawling to get to Boston because it's a great city. It's a great city for particularly if you're an athlete. We've had this conversation. You go down the line, Red Sox, Celtics, Patriots, all their pro teams at some point are competing for championships. And even when they're not competing for championships, they still have a ridiculously loyal fan base. The WNBA team would not be any different than that. This makes so much sense. And again, I keep coming back. And to me, at the end of the day, no matter how you feel about how Hack is going about doing this, the bottom line is this. He's giving you the best deal, financially speaking, that you can get. And he's gonna throw in a practice facility. Come on, man. What are we doing? WNBA, what are we doing?
I don't understand it. Gary, to your point about the Chisholm now being included in the conversation as well, is there a possibility that the W wants them to get lumped in with the Celtics in some way so that they get bigger, feel as though they're getting a bigger influence? Is that a possibility?
I definitely think there's probably a good amount of support for having them affiliated with the Celtics, although I don't know how much that will, quite honestly, impact, the enthusiasm for the team. I think the Celtics are all very supportive of a WNBA team moving in, and I don't know how much they have to be related. I don't, do we associate the Liberty with the Brooklyn Nets, even though they play? Like, what are we doing?
But then also knowing that there's been talks of the Celtics wanting their own space, does that give them the freedom to now actually scope somewhere else that they can own? And
I think they'll scope somewhere else anyway, because I think if any smart owner who's going to buy the team wants to own the arena, and they obviously do not own the Garden. So, but I do think the Celtics will be supportive, but I don't. Maybe the WNBA does want to link in the owners of the Celtics and have them have the same owners.
But it doesn't really do much in terms of fans or the franchise. I mean, the Wizards and the Mystics are owned by the same folks, and that hasn't exactly moved the needle for either one of those franchises. So
yeah, I mean, the Sparks of and the Lakers, or I think the perfect scenario is happening in Golden State, where it's the Valkyries and the Warriors, and they're like partnering. The Valkyries selling all the games. But I'm just not sure if they have something personally against Paliuka, or whether there is this, you don't own the Celtics, and we want the owners of the WNBA team to own the Celtics. So that's yet to be commented on. Obviously, I've been working on this, and the WNBA has been very quiet besides that statement. We will see how it all goes.
I'm rocking with Pags on this one. Let's go, Pags. Let's go. Make it happen.
We'll see. All right. Well, for those of you that are listening, obviously we'll continue to follow this story. But we also want to make sure that for you to follow the story with us, you're subscribing to our podcast, liking and leaving a review. And for those of you that are watching on CLNS, go ahead, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribing to the Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Celtics content. Also, a reminder, make sure you turn on those notifications so you know the instant a new video drops.
Absolutely. And while we are giving shout outs and all that good stuff, I want to definitely make sure we give a shout out to our good friends at PrizePicks, which is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks, which again is the #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. You can mix and match your player projections from all kinds of sports like basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, esports, you name it, they've got it covered. Yes, I emphasize basketball because that's what we're talking about today. PrizePicks, they also invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So how do you get in? Well, it is pretty simple. First and foremost, you have to download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
All right, let's take it back in history just a little bit for this next segment. This week in Celtics history, Shaq signed a 2-year, $2.8 million contract with the Celtics. What do you remember from his time here in Boston?
Let me just tell you right now, and I love me some Shaq. I absolutely love the hell out of Big Fella.
Here we go.
Yeah, you know,
here comes the diss. But
no,
go ahead, Sherrod.
Oh, there's no but. Okay.
There's no but. I absolutely love my time with Shaq. He was funny. Didn't play as well as obviously he would have liked but again, at the end of his career, we get it. We totally get it. He came at a time when I think the Celtics were in that weird space where they were still trying to win a championship, but they didn't quite have, I think, the horses to get it done. And they needed someone to just kind of just lighten the mood a little bit, because it felt as though, during that time post 08 era where there was so much pressure that I think a lot of guys are feeling to get a second chip, that, they needed someone to just kind of lighten the mood, but still keep them relatively competitive and near the top. And Shaq, I thought, did a great job of that. When he was healthy enough to play, they were good. They were really good, because even, at a significantly diminished state, when Shaquille O'Neal is playing his game, even when he's not 100% or even 50%, he's still better than most. That's what it's like when you're one of the all-time greats. I just remember when he retired and we were down at his place in Orlando where he had his press conference. I can't remember if you were there, Gary, but it was a hell of a time. Just kicking around, talking with him, just seeing him near the end of the rope and just being a part of that. It's not every day that you can say that you had a chance to talk with one of the all-time greatest players to ever do it, and arguably the greatest player at his position as he was exiting his career. So that was a lot of fun, a lot of enjoyment. And the one thing about Shaq that not a lot of people really got to fully understand until after the fact, but Shaq was always in business mode. Shaq was plotting out what life was going to be like after he got done playing, while he was playing. There were times in Boston where, I would get a chance to talk to him for a few minutes because, again, he wasn't playing a ton. And so the scrums that would gravitate toward him would quickly dissipate because he wasn't playing much. Yeah. And so I had a chance to talk to him on a number of occasions. And I love the fact that so much of what we talked about was just business after he got done playing. He talked about how you see me a lot now, see me more when I'm done playing. And he was right. I remember all these damn commercials that I saw like the minute he stopped playing. And those were things that he was aligning for himself as he was nearing the end of his career. Very smart businessman, understands how to move products, how to sell, himself and his image and the value that brings to corporate America. And he does it in a multitude. He did it in a multitude of ways, and is still doing it to this day. So again, I really enjoyed, his time in Boston. And Gary, ain't no buts. He was Shaq. I mean, come on, man. So I enjoyed the heck out of his time in Boston.
Okay, that's very nice. That's very nice, Rod. I'm very touched. I would rather not have seen him play with Celtics because it just, when you see the all-time greats and they start bouncing around to different teams, the Emmitt Smith with the Arizona Cardinals.
Damn, forgot about that.
You see the Tony Parker playing for Charlotte. You see the greats and they are bouncing around, and Shaq just wasn't himself. And the thing that stands out is that he says he tore his Achilles, and he said he tore his Achilles. The Celtics say he didn't. I want to know. We really don't know what injury cost him that season, because he tried to come back in the playoffs. I remember it was sad because he was trying to move and he couldn't move anymore, and they shut him down in that series against Miami. And it was just like he was effective when he played, but then his last few games was just like, nah, man, this ain't it. And he said, oh, now I don't know if his Achilles was partially torn. I don't know the circumstances of the injury, but it was kind of mysterious, the leg injury he had. And so I would rather not have seen him. And it was all, come to ball. It was great personality-wise off the court, covering Shaq. I met him. I covered him a little bit in my early career when I did a backup Lakers for Los Angeles Daily News. So I got to know him a little bit there. Young Shaq when he first got to LA. But this Shaq was a great guy, but I just wish that he had probably retired or, didn't try, because obviously physically he was a little heavier. He just wasn't himself. So to see him in Celtic green, you're sort of like, and that have to happen. I thought in Phoenix that last year he was great, and then he went to Cleveland. He was pretty good. He was more of an enforcer. and he took the step back because LeBron's last year. And then in Boston, it was like, okay, this is the big they needed, because remember, Kendrick Perkins was gone. He was traded, but it just didn't work out. So I would wish he might have probably called it quits after that Cleveland season, as opposed to trying to go at it, not just because that wasn't the Shaq we all remember.
But I tell you what, Gary, you're right. I mean, as far as basketball playing, not even close. But man, look, them days where Nate Robinson running around in the damn gym with Shaq shoes on, come on, man.
Yeah.
There was so many moments that Shaq made. I mean, he made that season way more fun than it would have been. And they still were a good team. So it wasn't as if they were trash and he was just like comic relief. But you're right, though. I mean, it would have been great if he had that kind of, riding off into the sunset, playing great basketball, and that's what we remember. But to me, Shaq is one of those guys, I'm always going to think about him from just the totality of his career. I'm not going to think about just the end. I'm still going to think about this dude shattering backboards. This dude doing commercials with Bill Walton and Russell and the all-time great centers, before, we really gravitated towards commercials the way we do now. There's so much about his story that I think is just incredibly powerful, incredibly just amazing. That, yeah, you're right. The ending wasn't anything that we would have liked, certainly not what he'd have liked, but I'm looking at the whole narrative, and his story is one of the great basketball stories of our generation. And again, for him, for that final chapter to be written in Boston, I do feel privileged that we were able to witness that. As bad as he was, as much as he was not the Shaq that we had come to know as a dominant figure, it was still great to be part of that story in its totality at the very end. That's all.
Yeah. Any final words? It's a short pod today. Short-ish.
Nah, we good. We
good.
I mean, first of all, nah, I ain't gonna go there.
Okay.
This was good. Okay, I'm just gonna end it with this. I like the fact that we have been able to have conversations today about something that goes beyond just who's going to be the next Celtic. The conversation about the WNBA, I think, is one that, especially with a clear and undeniable Celtics connection to it,
right,
is I like when we're having these kind of conversations.
I agree, yeah.
Because this is much bigger than just, who's the next. There are lives that are going to be significantly and to some extent, unfortunately, adversely affected by what happens with the Connecticut Sun, whether they come to Boston, whether they, go somewhere else. And there's a potential that, what's happening now could be the beginning of a legacy being built. And I love the fact that, by coming to a bigger market, you're going to have little boys and little girls who are potentially going to have a chance to see a great WNBA team up close and personal. Mm-hmm. I can tell you right now, one of the greatest joys I had when I was in Detroit was having my kids see the Detroit Shock win 2 championships. They were there for both of them. And that's something that they take with them to this day. My daughter's still somewhere around here, got a sweatband from Swin Cash, that she got. And it's and the thing for my daughter, and I think for a lot of girls, is that you see these amazingly awesome athletes, right? But then you get something like a wristband, and you smell it, and you see how she's looking on the court. It's like the wristband smells good. She's looking nice out on the court, and she's still getting you 25, 12, and 6. You can still be athletic and still be a woman at the same time. And again, it's great when you have a larger audience that you can really show that example to. And that's why, to me, it's one of the many benefits that will come about if this team does indeed come to Boston.
Yeah, I think it will. We'll see, though. We'll see, of course.
We can look fight, Pags. We got
you. Right. We'll sign
I'm all with Pags in this one.
Well, before we get out of here, for those of you that are listening, thank you for getting this far in the podcast. We just want to ask one more time, subscribe to the podcast, leave a review if you liked it. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe to the CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you'll be able to find our show, of course, and a lot of other great Celtics, NBA, and maybe even WNBA content on a regular basis. And one more thing, make sure you turn on those notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. For Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis, and this is the Big 3 NBA Podcast.
out.